The ultimatum. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Alex Chen as he gazed through the viewport of the diplomatic shuttle. Stars twinkled in the distance, but his attention was fixed on the massive alien vessel looming ahead. Its sleek, dark hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, creating an ominous silhouette against the starry backdrop. Alex took a deep breath, straightening his navy blue uniform. As Earth's top diplomat, he had faced countless challenging negotiations, but nothing could have prepared him for this moment. The fate of humanity rested on his shoulders, and the weight of that responsibility threatened to crush him. Ambassador Chen, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're receiving docking instructions from the Voraxian flagship." "Understood," Alex replied, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his mind. "Proceed as directed." As the shuttle maneuvered towards the alien ship, Alex recalled the events that had led to this moment. It had been just 3 days since the Voraxian Empire had appeared in Earth's solar system, their massive fleet of warships taking up position around the planet. The world had watched in stunned silence as the alien emperor's holographic image appeared in every major city, demanding an audience with Earth's leaders. The message had been clear: comply or face annihilation. Now, as Earth's chosen representative, Alex was about to meet with the Voraxian leadership face to face. His mission was simple in theory but monumentally difficult in practice: convince the aliens not to destroy humanity. The shuttle shuddered as it passed through the energy fields surrounding the Voraxian ship. Alex's stomach lurched, partly from the sensation and partly from nerves. As they touched down in the cavernous docking bay, he took one last moment to center himself. "You can do this, Alex," he muttered under his breath. "For Earth, for everyone." The shuttle's door hissed open, revealing a group of tall, imposing figures waiting on the other side. The Voraxians stood at least 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors in the light. Their faces were vaguely reptilian, with sharp cheekbones and glowing, multifaceted eyes. Alex stepped out, head held high. "Greetings," he said, his universal translator converting his words into the clicking, whistling language of the Voraxians. "I am Ambassador Alex Chen, representative of Earth. I come in peace and with hope for mutual understanding." The tallest Voraxian, adorned in ornate armor, stepped forward. "I am High Commander Zexilor," it said, its voice a low rumble even through the translator. "You will follow us to the Emperor." Without waiting for a response, Zexilor turned and strode away. Alex hurried to keep up, noting the armed guards that fell into step behind him. The message was clear: he was as much a prisoner as a guest. As they walked through the winding corridors of the ship, Alex marveled at the alien technology surrounding him. The walls pulsed with an inner light, and holographic displays flickered in and out of existence. In any other circumstances, he would have been fascinated. Now, he could only focus on the impending meeting and the billions of lives depending on its outcome. Finally, they arrived at a massive set of doors that slid open silently at their approach. Alex stepped into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. At the far end, seated on a throne that seemed to be made of living, shifting metal, was the Voraxian Emperor. "Ambassador Chen of Earth," the Emperor's voice boomed across the room. "Approach and hear the will of the Voraxian Empire." Alex walked forward, his footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. He stopped at a respectful distance and bowed slightly. "Emperor, I thank you for granting this audience. I hope that we can find a peaceful—" Silence. The Emperor interrupted, his multifaceted eyes flashing. "We did not come to negotiate. We came to deliver an ultimatum." Alex's heart sank, but he kept his expression neutral. "I understand, Your Majesty. May I ask the nature of this ultimatum?" The Emperor leaned forward, his scales rippling with shades of deep purple and midnight blue. "Your planet, primitive as it is, holds a unique position in this sector of the galaxy. It is a nexus point for several interspatial corridors, a fact your species is too underdeveloped to comprehend." Alex's mind raced. Interspatial corridors, nexus points. The implications were staggering, but he forced himself to focus on the Emperor's words. "We require control of Earth to expand our empire," the Emperor continued. "However, our laws forbid the complete annihilation of sentient species. Thus, we offer you a choice." The air in the room seemed to thicken as Alex waited for the hammer to fall. "You, Ambassador Chen, will marry the Imperial Princess Kazara," the Emperor declared. "This union will symbolize the merging of our civilizations. Earth will fall under Varaxian protection, and your people will be spared, relegated to reservations but alive." Alex blinked, sure he had misheard. "Marriage? To your princess?" "Indeed," the Emperor said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "It is a great honor, one your primitive mind may not fully grasp." "And if I refuse?" Alex asked, already dreading the answer. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "Then we will have no choice but to cleanse your planet of all sentient life, making way for Varaxian colonization. Your choice will decide the fate of billions, Ambassador." Alex's mind reeled. The fate of humanity now rested on his willingness to marry an alien princess. It was absurd, impossible, and yet deadly serious. How long do I have to decide?" he managed to ask. "You have until the rise of your son," the Emperor said dismissively. "Choose wisely, Ambassador Chen. The future of your species hangs in the balance." With a wave of the Emperor's hand, guards appeared to escort Alex back to his shuttle. As he walked, his mind raced through possibilities, searching for a way out, a third option that didn't involve either personal sacrifice or global annihilation. Back on the shuttle, Alex slumped into his seat, the weight of the universe pressing down on him. The pilot wisely remained silent as they disembarked from the Varaxian ship and began the journey back to Earth. Alex stared out the viewport, watching as the blue marble of his homeworld grew larger. How could he possibly make this decision? How could he explain this ultimatum to the world's leaders, to the public? The thought of marrying an alien princess, of living among the Varaxians, filled him with dread. But the alternative, the destruction of everything and everyone he had ever known, was unthinkable. As Earth's atmosphere enveloped the shuttle, Alex made a decision. He wouldn't face this alone. He needed to consult with Earth's leaders, with scientists, with anyone who might be able to offer insight or alternatives. The shuttle touched down at the United Earth headquarters in Geneva. Alex steeled himself as he saw the crowd of officials waiting for him. Taking a deep breath, he stepped out to face the barrage of questions he knew were coming. "Ambassador Chen, what did the aliens want? Are we at war?" The shouts came from all directions. Alex raised his hands, calling for silence. "I have met with the Varaxian Emperor," he announced, his voice carrying across the tarmac. "The situation is complex. I need to speak with the Security Council immediately." As he was ushered into the building, Alex caught sight of a news broadcast on a nearby screen. The headline read, "Humanity's fate is in balance. Ambassador Orituans from Alien Encounter." If they only knew, Alex thought grimly. In the Security Council chamber, Alex stood before the assembled leaders of Earth. He took a moment to look at each of them, men and women from every corner of the globe, all united in their concern for humanity's future. "Distinguished leaders," Alex began, "I stand before you with news that will shape the course of human history." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "The Varaxian Empire has presented us with an ultimatum. They desire control of Earth due to its strategic location in the galaxy. They have offered us a choice that falls to me to make." The room was silent, tension palpable in the air. "I have been ordered to marry the Varaxian Imperial Princess," Alex continued, his words met with gasps and murmurs of disbelief. "This union would symbolize Earth's integration into the Varaxian Empire. Our people would be allowed to live, though under Varaxian rule." "And if you refuse?" the Secretary General asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex met her gaze steadily. "Then the Varaxians will, in their words, cleanse our planet of all sentient life to make way for their colonization. The room erupted into chaos. Shouts of anger, disbelief, and fear echoed off the walls. Alex stood silently, allowing the initial shock to pass. Silence. The Secretary General's voice cut through the tumult. "Ambassador Chen, how long do we have to respond?" "Until sunrise," Alex replied. "My sunrise in Geneva. Approximately 10 hours." The gravity of the situation settled over the room like a heavy blanket. 10 hours to decide the fate of humanity. "We need options," the US president said, leaning forward. "Military options, diplomatic alternatives, anything." "With all due respect, Mr. President," Alex replied, "I've seen their technology. Any military action would be suicide. As for diplomacy, they've made it clear this is their only offer." "So we just roll over?" the Russian representative demanded. "Allow these aliens to dictate terms." Alex shook his head. "No, we buy time. I accept the proposal, integrate myself into their society, and learn. We gather intelligence, understand their weaknesses, and prepare. Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We'll do it again." The room fell silent as the implications of Alex's words sank in. He was volunteering to sacrifice his life as he knew it, to live among aliens, all in the hope of finding a way to save humanity. "It's too much to ask of one person," the Chinese delegate said softly. Alex straightened his shoulders. "With all due respect, it's not a matter of asking. This is a hand we've been dealt. I'm Earth's representative. This is my duty." As discussions continued late into the night, plans were made, contingencies set in place. Alex found himself in a whirlwind of briefings, crash courses in xenobiology, advanced physics, and espionage. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Alex stood once more on the landing pad, ready to return to the Voraxian ship. The weight of humanity's future pressed down on him, but he stood tall. "Ambassador," the Secretary General said, gripping his hand tightly. "Remember, no matter what happens up there, you carry the hopes of every human with you. We're counting on you, Alex." Alex nodded sullenly. "I won't let you down. I won't let humanity down." As he boarded the shuttle, Alex took one last look at the sunrise over Earth. He didn't know if he'd ever see his home like this again, but he was determined to ensure that humanity would have the chance to see many more sunrises. The shuttle's engines roared to life, lifting Alex towards his destiny and humanity's uncertain future. As Earth shrank behind him, he steeled his resolve. He was more than just Alex Chen now. He was humanity's best hope, their representative in a vast and dangerous universe. And he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The reluctant bride. The Voraxian flagship loomed before Alex once more, its dark hull seeming to absorb the very starlight around it. As his shuttle approached the docking bay, Alex took a deep breath, centering himself for the challenges ahead. He was no longer just a diplomat. He was now humanity's eyes and ears in an alien empire. The docking procedure was smoother this time, the Voraxian technology guiding the Earth shuttle with precision. As the airlock hissed open, Alex straightened his uniform and stepped out, head held high. A delegation of Voraxians awaited him, their scales shimmering with hues of deep purple and blue. "Ambassador Chen," the lead Voraxian said, its multifaceted eyes studying him intently. "I am Zixara, chief advisor to Princess Kizara. We are pleased by your decision." Alex nodded, keeping his expression neutral. "The honor is mine," he replied, the words tasting bitter in his mouth, despite the translator's emotionless rendition. "I look forward to meeting the princess." Zixara made a gesture that Alex interpreted as the Voraxian equivalent of a smile. "Indeed, follow me. The princess awaits in her chambers." As they walked through the winding corridors of the ship, Alex took careful note of everything he saw. The pulsing bioluminescent walls, the strange gravity that seemed to shift subtly with each step, the holographic displays that Voraxians interacted with using mere thought. All of it was light years beyond Earth's technology. Finally, they arrived at an ornate door that seemed to be made of living crystal. Zixara placed a scaled hand on a glowing panel, and the door dissolved into mist. "Princess Kizara," Zixara announced, "I present Ambassador Alex Chen of Earth." Alex stepped into the room, his eyes widening despite his best efforts to maintain composure. The chamber was vast, its ceiling lost in a simulated sky that swirled with alien constellations. At the center stood a figure that took his breath away. Princess Kizara was tall, like all Varaxians, but there was a grace to her movements that set her apart. Her scales shimmered with an iridescent beauty, shifting between shades of azure and violet. Her eyes, multifaceted like gems, fixed on Alex with an intensity that made him feel exposed. "So," Kizara said, her voice a melodic trill even through the translator, "you are the human who would be my mate." Alex bowed slightly. "Princess Kizara, it is an honor to meet you. I hope that our union will bring peace and understanding between our peoples." Kizara circled him slowly, her gaze analytical. "You speak of honor and peace, human, but I sense fear in you. Reluctance. Do you find me so repulsive?" Alex's diplomatic training kicked in. "Not at all, Your Highness. You are breathtaking. My reluctance stems from the suddenness of this arrangement, not from any lack of appreciation for your beauty." A sound emerged from Kizara that Alex's translator struggled to interpret, something between a laugh and a hiss. "You are well-spoken, Ambassador. Perhaps this arrangement will not be as tedious as I had feared." She gestured to a seating area that seemed to grow organically from the floor. "Come, let us speak plainly. We have much to discuss before the bonding ceremony." As Alex sat across from the alien princess, he couldn't help but marvel at the surreal nature of the situation. Here he was, light years from Earth, discussing marriage with a being from another world. "I must admit," Kizara began, "I was surprised when my father proposed this solution. It is unconventional, even by our standards." Alex leaned forward slightly. "If I may ask, Princess, what are the usual customs for Voraxian marriages?" Kizara's scales rippled, a sign Alex was beginning to associate with amusement. Typically, unions are arranged based on genetic compatibility and political advantage. The concept of marrying an alien is unprecedented. "Then why?" Alex began, but Kizara held up a hand to silence him. "Politics, Ambassador. Always politics." She stood, moving to a window that showed the vast expanse of space. "Our empire is vast, but not without its challenges. This union, strained as it may seem, serves multiple purposes." Alex listened intently, filing away every piece of information. "What purposes might those be, if I may ask?" Kizara turned back to him, her eyes gleaming. "First, it legitimizes our claim on Earth without resorting to outright conquest. Second, it presents me, and by extension, the imperial family, as benevolent rulers willing to embrace other species. And third," she paused, studying Alex closely, "it allows us to study humans up close, to better understand your species' peculiar resilience." Alex felt a chill run down his spine at her words. Peculiar resilience. "Indeed," Kizara said, returning to her seat. "Your species is young, your technology primitive compared to ours, and yet you've survived challenges that have wiped out far more advanced civilizations. It's intriguing." Alex saw an opportunity and seized it. "Perhaps, Princess, our union could be more than political maneuvering. It could be a true exchange of knowledge and culture. Humanity has much to offer, despite our technological limitations." Kizara tilted her head, considering his words. "Perhaps," she conceded, "but do not mistake this for an equal partnership, Ambassador. You are here as a symbol, a trophy of our empire's expansion. Your comfort and well-being will be ensured, but do not overstep." Alex nodded, keeping his expression neutral even as his mind raced. There was more happening here than a simple political marriage. He needed to tread carefully, to learn more without arousing suspicion. "I understand, Your Highness," he said. "I am grateful for the opportunity to serve as a bridge between our peoples in whatever capacity you deem appropriate." Kazara seemed pleased by his response. "Good. Now, we must prepare you for the bonding ceremony. It will take place in 3 cycles, what you would call days. You will need to learn our customs, our rituals. It will not be easy." As if on cue, a group of Voraxian attendants entered the chamber. Kazara stood, addressing them in rapid-fire clicks and whistles that Alex's translator couldn't keep up with. "These attendants will see to your needs," Kazara explained. "They will teach you what you must know for the ceremony. I suggest you pay close attention, Ambassador. Mistakes will not be tolerated." With that, she swept out of the room, leaving Alex alone with the alien attendants. As they began to explain the intricacies of Voraxian bonding rituals, Alex's mind was elsewhere. He had to find a way to turn this situation to humanity's advantage, to gather information that could help Earth defend itself when, the need arose. The next 3 days were a whirlwind of activity. Alex was thrust into a crash course on Voraxian culture, politics, and biology. He learned of their complex caste system, their religious beliefs centered around cosmic energy fields, and their advanced biotechnology that blurred the lines between organic and artificial. Throughout it all, Alex maintained his diplomatic composure, absorbing everything he could while carefully probing for weaknesses. He noticed the subtle power struggles among the Voraxian nobles, the whispered conversations that stopped when he entered a room, the way certain topics seemed to be off-limits. On the eve of the bonding ceremony, Alex found himself once again in Kazara's chambers. The princess seemed agitated, her scales flickering rapidly between colors. "Is everything all right, Your Highness?" Alex asked, genuine concern in his voice. Despite the circumstances, he had come to respect Kazara's intelligence and strength. Kazara turned to him, her eyes unreadable. "Tell me, Ambassador, what do you know of Voraxian physiology?" Alex blinked, caught off guard by the question. I've learned that your species is remarkably adaptable. Your biotechnology allows you to alter your forms to suit different environments." "Indeed," Kazara said, moving closer to him. "But did they tell you about the bonding process itself? About what it truly means to be mated to a Voraxian?" Alex felt a flutter of unease in his stomach. "I was told it was a symbolic joining, a ritual too." "It is far more than symbolic," Kazara interrupted. She reached out, a scaled hand hovering just above Alex's chest. "The bonding is a true melding of beings. Our nervous systems will synchronize, our minds will touch. There will be no secrets between us, Ambassador." Alex's blood ran cold. If what Kazara said was true, all of his plans, all of Earth's hopes would be exposed. I didn't realize," he stammered. Kazara's expression softened, showing an emotion Alex couldn't quite identify. "I suspected as much. Your attendants would not have been authorized to reveal this information." She turned away, her voice lowering. Perhaps this is a mistake." Alex's mind raced. This was simultaneously his greatest threat and his greatest opportunity. If he went through with the bonding, he risked exposing Earth's plans. But if he could somehow control the process, or even turn it to his advantage— "Princess," he said carefully, "I appreciate your honesty. This is overwhelming, to say the least. But I made a commitment, not just to you, but to the peace between our peoples. I intend to honor that commitment." Kazara looked back at him, surprise evident in her multifaceted eyes. "You would still go through with this, knowing what it entails?" Alex nodded, forcing a smile. "I would. After all, true understanding between our species must start somewhere. Why not with us?" For a long moment, Kazara studied him in silence. Then, to Alex's surprise, she laughed, a trilling sound that his translator rendered as a mix of amusement and respect. "You continued to surprise me, Alexander Chen," she said, using his full name for the first time. "Very well. We shall proceed as planned. But know this, once we are bonded, there is no going back. Our fates will be intertwined, for better or worse. As Kizara dismissed him to make his final preparations, Alex's mind was in turmoil. He had just committed to the most intimate form of alien contact imaginable, all on a slim hope that he could somehow turn it to humanity's advantage. Back in his quarters, Alex sat in quiet meditation, centering himself for the challenge ahead. He thought of Earth, of the billions of lives depending on him. He thought of the Voraxian Empire, vast and inscrutable, and of Kizara, the alien princess who would soon know him more intimately than any human ever had. As the ship's artificial day cycle dimmed to night, Alex made a silent vow. No matter what happened in the bonding ceremony, no matter what secrets were revealed or what alien influences invaded his mind, he would not forget his mission. He was humanity's ambassador, their eyes and ears in a dangerous universe. And tomorrow, for better or worse, he would take the greatest leap into the unknown in human history. The fate of two civilizations hung in the balance, and Alex Chen, reluctant bridegroom and unlikely hero, was the fulcrum upon which that fate would turn. Secrets and lies. The day of the bonding ceremony arrived with an air of tense anticipation. Alex stood before a mirror in his quarters, examining his reflection. He was dressed in a Voraxian ceremonial robe, its bioluminescent fabric shifting colors with his every movement. The alien garment felt strange against his skin, a constant reminder of how far from home he truly was. A chime at his door announced the arrival of his escort. Taking a deep breath, Alex steeled himself for what was to come. As he stepped into the corridor, he was greeted by a contingent of Voraxian guards, their scales gleaming in the ship's ethereal light. "Ambassador," the lead guard said, "it is time." Alex nodded, falling into step beside them. As they made their way through the winding corridors of the ship, he couldn't help but notice the increased activity around him. Voraxians of various castes hurried about, their conversations a cacophony of clicks and whistles that his translator struggled to keep up with. They arrived at a vast chamber that Alex hadn't seen before. Its domed ceiling was a projection of swirling galaxies, and at its center stood a raised platform surrounded by what appeared to be living crystals. The room was filled with Voraxian nobility, their scales a dazzling array of colors denoting their various ranks and houses. At the far end of the chamber, Alex saw Kizara. She stood tall and regal, her scales shimmering with an intensity he hadn't seen before. Their eyes met across the room, and for a moment, Alex thought he saw a flicker of, was it concern? Anticipation. He couldn't be sure. The ceremony began with a series of rituals that Alex had spent the last 3 days memorizing. He moved through them with careful precision, acutely aware that the slightest misstep could have dire consequences. As he and Kizara approached the central platform, the crystals around them began to pulse with an inner light. "Honored witnesses," a voice boomed out, and Alex recognized the Voraxian Emperor. "Today, we unite not just two beings, but two civilizations. Let the bonding commence." Alex and Kizara stepped onto the platform. The princess turned to him, her multifaceted eyes gleaming. "Are you ready, Alexander Chen?" she asked, her voice low enough that only he could hear. "As I'll ever be," Alex replied, managing a small smile. Kizara reached out, placing her scaled hands on either side of Alex's face. He mirrored the gesture, feeling the strange texture of her skin beneath his palms. The crystals around them pulsed faster, their light growing more intense. "Open your mind," Kizara whispered, "and do not resist." Suddenly, Alex felt a rush of sensation unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as if his consciousness was expanding, reaching out beyond the confines of his own body. He could feel Kizara's presence, alien and vast, intertwining with his own. Images and sensations flooded his mind. He saw glimpses of Kizara's life, her childhood in the imperial palace, her training in the complex arts of Voraxian politics and science. He felt her ambitions, her fears, her secret doubts about the empire's expansionist policies. But even as Alex's mind was overwhelmed with these alien experiences, he clung to his core self, to his mission. He focused on projecting thoughts of peace, of mutual understanding and cooperation. He brought forth memories of Earth's beauty, of humanity's resilience and creativity. As the bonding reached its peak, something unexpected happened. In the swirling maelstrom of shared consciousness, Alex stumbled upon a memory that didn't seem to belong. It was dark, fragmented, but undeniably there, a secret meeting, whispered conversations about a hidden threat to the Empire. Before he could focus on it, the vision was gone, swept away in the flood of sensations. The bonding began to subside, the intense connection fading to a subtle link at the back of his mind. As Alex's awareness returned to his physical surroundings, he found himself still standing on the platform, his hands intertwined with Kizara's. The chamber erupted in a chorus of trilling sounds that his translator interpreted as applause. The Emperor stepped forward, his massive form looming over them. "It is done," he declared. "Ambassador Chen, you are now bonded to Princess Kizara, and through her, to the Voraxian Empire itself. May this union bring prosperity to all." As the formal reception began, Alex's mind raced. The bonding had been overwhelming, yes, but he had survived with his sense of self intact. More than that, he had glimpsed something, a secret that could be crucial to understanding the true dynamics of the Voraxian Empire. Zara remained close to his side as they moved through the crowd, accepting congratulations from the assembled nobility. Alex could feel her presence in the back of his mind, a constant reminder of their new connection. "You did well," Kizara said softly as they had a moment alone. Many non-Voraxians would have lost themselves in the bonding. Alex nodded, choosing his words carefully. "It was intense. I feel like I've lived a lifetime in your shoes, Princess." Kizara's scales rippled in what Alex now recognized as amusement. "And I in yours, Alexander. Your world is fascinating. So chaotic, yet so full of potential." As the reception continued, Alex found himself introduced to a dizzying array of Voraxian nobles and officials. He paid careful attention to each interaction, noting the subtle power dynamics at play. His diplomatic training served him well, allowing him to navigate the complex web of Voraxian politics with relative ease. It was during one such interaction that Alex's newfound sensitivity to Voraxian body language paid off. He was speaking with a high-ranking military official when he noticed a subtle change in the Voraxians' scale patterns, a flicker of something that seemed out of place in the celebratory atmosphere. "Is everything all right, Commander?" Alex asked, his tone casual. The Voraxian's multifaceted eyes fixed on him with sudden intensity. "Of course, Ambassador. Why do you ask?" Alex smiled disarmingly. "Forgive me, I'm still adjusting to reading Voraxian expressions. I thought I sensed some concern." The commander's scales rippled in a pattern Alex couldn't quite interpret. "These are complex times, Ambassador. The bonding of our princess to an alien brings great change. Change can be unsettling." Before Alex could probe further, Kizara appeared at his side. "I hope you're not monopolizing my mate's time, Commander," she said, her tone light, but with an undercurrent of authority. The commander bowed slightly. "Of course not, Your Highness. I was just welcoming the ambassador to our society." As the commander moved away, Alex turned to Kizara. "Is it my imagination, or was there more to that conversation than met the eye?" Kizara's expression was unreadable. "Politics is always more complex than it appears on the surface, Alexander. Come, there are others you must meet." As the reception wore on, Alex found his mind returning to the fragmented vision he had glimpsed during the bonding. A hidden threat to the Empire. What could it mean? And why did he have the nagging feeling that it's somehow connected to Earth? Later, as Alex and Kizara retired to their new shared quarters, he finally had a chance to voice his concerns. "Kizara," he began, once they were alone, "during the bonding, I saw something, a memory, I think, but it didn't seem to be yours." The princess turned to him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What kind of memory?" Alex hesitated, then decided to push forward. It was fragmented, unclear, but I saw a secret meeting, heard whispers of a threat to the Empire. Do you know anything about this? For a long moment, Kazara was silent, her scales shifting through a range of colors. When she finally spoke, her voice was low and intense. Alexander, listen to me carefully. The bonding we shared is sacred, but it is not all-encompassing. There are depths to Voraxian society that even I am not privy to. If you saw such a memory, it was not meant for you or for me. But if there's a threat, Alex began, but Kazara cut him off. We must be cautious, she said. Your position here is precarious, as is mine. There are factions within the Empire who oppose this union, who see it as a sign of weakness. If we start asking questions about things we shouldn't know. She didn't need to finish the thought. Alex understood the implied threat all too well. Then what should we do? He asked. Kazara's expression softened slightly. For now, we play our parts. You learn our ways, integrate yourself into Voraxian society. I'll teach you how to shield your thoughts, to control the link between us. And together, we watch and we listen. Understanding will come in time. As they prepared for sleep, Alex still marveling at the strange, living quality of Voraxian furniture, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had stepped into something far more complex and dangerous than he had initially realized. In the days that followed, Alex threw himself into his new role. He attended meetings of the Imperial Court, studied Voraxian science and history, and worked to strengthen his mental shields under Kazara's guidance. All the while, he kept his senses attuned to any hint of the hidden threat he had glimpsed. It was during a tour of a Voraxian research facility that Alex's persistence finally paid off. As they passed through a high-security area, he caught a glimpse of a holographic display showing what appeared to be a star map. At its center was a system he recognized immediately, Sol, Earth's home. What's this project? He asked casually, nodding towards the display. The lead scientist, a Voraxian named Zexicor, quickly deactivated the hologram. Nothing that need concern you, Ambassador. Merely theoretical research into stellar phenomena. But Alex had seen enough to know it was far more than that. The map had shown energy patterns, weapon trajectories. It was a battle plan, centered on Earth. As they left the facility, Alex's mind was in turmoil. The Voraxians were planning something that put Earth in grave danger. But he couldn't confront them directly without revealing how much he knew, and potentially dooming himself in the process. That night, as he lay beside Kazara in their shared chamber, Alex made a decision. He would find a way to warn Earth, to prepare them for whatever the Voraxians were planning. But to do that, he would need to navigate the treacherous waters of imperial politics, to uncover the truth behind the factions and secrets that swirled around him. As he drifted off to sleep, Alex Chen, diplomat, reluctant bridegroom, and now secret agent, steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The fate of humanity rested on his ability to outmaneuver an alien empire, all while pretending to be the perfect, compliant consort. The game of secrets and lies had begun in earnest, and Alex was determined to win, no matter the cost. Unlikely allies. Weeks passed, and Alex found himself settling into an uneasy routine within the Voraxian Empire. On the surface, he played the role of the dutiful consort, attending imperial functions and learning the intricacies of Voraxian culture. But beneath this facade, his mind was constantly working, piecing together the fragments of information he gathered. The memory of the battle plans centered on Earth haunted him. He knew he had to act, but direct communication with his home planet was impossible. The Voraxians monitored all outgoing transmissions, and any attempt to warn Earth would likely result in his immediate execution and possibly Earth's destruction. It was during one of the regular court sessions that Alex's opportunity finally presented itself. As he sat beside Kazara, listening to the various nobles and officials present their reports to the Emperor, a name caught his attention. And finally, Your Majesty, we have a report from the dissident Zarkol. He claims to have information vital to the security of the Empire. The Emperor's scales darkened, a sign Alex had come to recognize as displeasure. Zarkol, that troublemaker, what could he possibly have to offer? The official reporting seemed to shrink under the Emperor's gaze. He says it concerns the Earth Integration Project, Your Majesty, and potential threats to its success. A ripple of murmurs spread through the court. Alex felt Kazara tense beside him, her scales shifting rapidly. Very well, the Emperor said after a long pause. We will hear what Zarkol has to say. Bring him before us tomorrow. As the court session ended, Alex turned to Kazara. Who is this Zarkol? He asked, keeping his tone casual. Kazara's eyes narrowed slightly. A scientist. Brilliant, but unstable. He was exiled years ago for promoting dangerous ideas about the Empire's expansion policies. Alex nodded, filing away this information. He had a feeling this Zarkol might be the key to understanding the hidden threats he glimpsed. That night, as Kazara slept, Alex made a decision. He would find a way to speak with Zarkol before the court session. It was risky, but he was running out of time and options. Using the skills Kazara had taught him to shield his thoughts, Alex carefully extracted himself from their shared bed. He moved silently through their quarters, accessing the computer terminal. Thanks to his status as the princess's consort, he had high-level access to many of the ship's systems. After some careful searching, Alex found what he was looking for, the location of the holding cells where Zarkol was being kept. With a deep breath, he set out into the dimly lit corridors of the ship. Avoiding the patrol routes he'd memorized over the past weeks, Alex made his way to the detention level. As he approached Zarkol's cell, he heard a soft voice. I wondered when you might come, human. Alex froze, then stepped into view of the cell. Zarkol was unlike any Varaxian he'd seen before. The scientist's scales were a muted gray, and his eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. You were expecting me? Alex asked, keeping his voice low. Zarkol's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. I've been watching you, Alexander Chen. You play the game well, but your eyes betray you. You seek answers. Alex glanced around, ensuring they were alone. What do you know about the Earth Integration Project? Zarkol said, moving closer to the energy field that contained him. The great lie at the heart of the Empire. Tell me, human, do you truly believe your world was chosen for its strategic location alone? Alex's heart raced. What do you mean? Zarkol's eyes seemed to bore into him. Your species is unique, Alexander Chen. Your adaptability, your resilience, they are unparalleled in our experience. The Empire doesn't want to integrate Earth. They want to harvest it. The words hit Alex like a physical blow. Harvest? I don't understand. Of course you don't, Zarkol said, his tone almost pitying. The Varaxian Empire has a secret, one that goes back millennia. Our great civilization, our incredible biotechnology, it all comes at a cost. We need genetic diversity to sustain it. Your species represents the greatest source of that diversity we've ever encountered. Alex's mind reeled with the implications. The battle plans he'd seen, the secrecy surrounding the Earth Project, it all began to make a terrible kind of sense. Why are you telling me this? He asked. Zarkol's expression turned grave. Because the Empire's path leads to destruction, not just for Earth, but for us as well. This endless consumption cannot be sustained. I've tried to warn them, to show them alternatives, but they branded me a traitor. A sound in the corridor made Alex tense. His time was running out. What can I do? He asked urgently. Zarkol pressed closer to the energy field. Find the truth. In the Imperial Archives, there's a file, Project Genesis. It contains everything you need to know. But be careful, Alexander Chen. Knowledge is power, but it's also dangerous. The sound of approaching footsteps grew louder. Alex knew he had to leave. Thank you, he said to Zarkol. I'll find a way to stop this. As he slipped away, Alex heard Zarkol's final whisper. "The fate of two worlds rests in your hands, human. Choose wisely." Alex barely made it back to his quarters before Kazara stirred. As he slid back into bed, his mind was a whirlwind of new information and terrible possibilities. The next day, as Zarkol was brought before the Imperial Court, Alex watched the proceedings with new eyes. The scientist's warnings were dismissed as the ravings of a madman, but Alex could see the fear in the eyes of some of the officials. Zarkol knew something that threatened the very foundations of the Empire. As the days passed, Alex redoubled his efforts to uncover the truth. He used every opportunity to access the Imperial archives, searching for any mention of Project Genesis. But the file was well hidden, protected by layers of security he couldn't hope to breach alone. It was during one of these clandestine searches that Alex's luck finally ran out. As he attempted to access a restricted section of the archives, an alarm blared. Before he could react, he found himself surrounded by Voraxian guards, their weapons trained on him. "Alexander Chen," a cold voice said, and Alex turned to see Zixara, Kazara's chief advisor, approaching. "You are under arrest for treason against the Voraxian Empire." As the guards led him away, Alex caught sight of Kazara watching from a distance, her expression unreadable. Had she known? Had she been part of this deception all along? Hours later, Alex sat in a stark interrogation room, his wrists bound by energy cuffs. The door slid open, and to his surprise, Kazara entered. "Leave us," she commanded the guards, who obeyed without question. Once they were alone, Kazara's composure cracked. "What have you done, Alexander?" she hissed, her scales shifting rapidly in agitation. "What I had to," Alex replied, meeting her gaze steadily. "Your empire plans to destroy my world, Kazara. Did you know?" Kazara's eyes widened, then narrowed. "You've been speaking with Zarkol," she said, her voice low. "His madness has infected you. Is it madness if it's true?" Alex countered. "The battle plans, Project Genesis, it's all real, isn't it?" For a long moment, Kazara was silent. Then, to Alex's shock, she reached out and deactivated his restraints. "Listen to me very carefully," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What you've uncovered, it goes deeper than you can imagine. There are factions within the Empire, forces that even my father cannot fully control. If they learn how much you know, they will kill you, and likely me as well." Alex rubbed his wrists, studying Kazara's face. "Why are you helping me?" Kazara's expression softened. "Because despite everything, I've come to care for you, Alexander. And because I fear Zarkol may be right. The path we're on, it could lead to our destruction as surely as yours." She moved to the door, checking the corridor. "We don't have much time. If we're going to find the truth and stop this madness, we need to act now." Alex stood, his heart pounding. "What's the plan?" Kazara's eyes gleamed with determination. "We're going to break into the most secure vault in the Empire and steal the Genesis files. And then, my dear husband, we're going to save both our worlds." As they slipped out of the interrogation room and into the shadowy corridors of the Imperial flagship, Alex felt a mix of fear and exhilaration. He had come to the Voraxian Empire as a reluctant bridegroom, a symbol of Earth's submission. Now he was a fugitive, a rebel, and possibly the last hope for humanity's survival. With Kazara by his side, her knowledge of the Empire's inner workings complementing his human ingenuity, Alex prepared himself for the greatest challenge of his life. They would have to outmaneuver the most powerful beings in the galaxy, uncover secrets buried for millennia, and find a way to bridge the vast gulf between their species. As they made their way towards the heart of the Empire's power, Alex couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns his life had taken. He had come to space as a diplomat, become a reluctant bride, and now found himself a revolutionary. Whatever happened next, he knew that the fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire Voraxian Empire, would be forever changed. The unlikeliest of allies, a human diplomat and an alien princess, were about to challenge the very foundations of an interstellar empire. And as they delved deeper into the shadows of Voraxian society, Alex Chen realized that his greatest adventure and his greatest test was only just beginning. The Great Escape. The corridors of the Imperial flagship seemed to stretch endlessly as Alex and Kazara made their way towards the most secure vault in the Voraxian Empire. Every shadow held the potential for discovery, every distant sound the threat of capture. Alex's heart pounded in his chest, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "How much further?" he whispered to Kazara, who moved with a fluid grace that belied the tension evident in her rapidly shifting scales. "Not far," she replied, her voice barely audible. "But the real challenge lies ahead. The vault is protected by biometric scanners, quantum-locked force fields, and guards with shoot-to-kill orders." Alex nodded grimly. "Sounds like a typical Tuesday at the UN," he quipped, earning a look of confusion from Kazara. "Never mind. Earth humor. What's the plan?" Kazara paused at an intersection, her multifaceted eyes scanning the area before she motioned Alex forward. "I can bypass most of the security with my royal access codes, but the final lock. It requires the Emperor's personal genetic signature." "Which we don't have," Alex said, his heart sinking. A small smile played at the corners of Kazara's mouth. "Not exactly, but we have the next best thing, a hybrid of the Emperor's genetics and Earth DNA." It took Alex a moment to understand. Our bonding." Kazara nodded. "The ceremony didn't just link our minds, Alexander. It altered your genetic structure on a fundamental level. You're part Voraxian now, with traces of Imperial DNA. It might be enough to fool the system." They reached a massive door that seemed to be made of living metal, its surface rippling like quicksilver. Kazara placed her hand on a glowing panel, and a series of lights pulsed along the door's frame. "Genetic scan required for final access," an automated voice announced. Alex stepped forward, his palm hovering over the panel. He glanced at Kazara, who gave an encouraging nod. Taking a deep breath, he pressed his hand against the cool, metallic surface. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a series of clicks and whirs, the massive door began to slide open. "I can't believe that worked," Alex breathed as they slipped inside. "Don't celebrate yet," Kazara warned. "We still need to find the Genesis files and get out of here before." An alarm blared, cutting her off. Red lights began flashing throughout the vault. "Unauthorized access detected," the automated voice announced. "Security protocols engaged. Lockdown imminent." "Quickly," Kazara hissed, rushing to a central console. Her fingers flew over the holographic interface, sifting through countless files and data streams. Alex stood guard by the door, his eyes darting between the corridors outside and Kazara's frantic search. "How much time do we have?" "Not enough," Kazara replied, her scales a turbulent mix of colors reflecting her stress. "There are too many files, too much data. We need to narrow it down." Alex's mind raced. What had Zarkal said? "Try searching for Project Genesis," he suggested. Kazara input the term, and suddenly the holographic display exploded with information. Star charts, genetic sequences, weapon schematics. It was all there, the true scope of the Voraxian plan laid bare. "By the cosmic void," Kazara whispered, her eyes wide. Zarkal was right. They're not just planning to harvest Earth. They're going to use your planet as a testing ground for a new form of genetic assimilation. If it works, they'll do it to every compatible species in the galaxy. Alex finished, the horror of the situation sinking in. The sound of running footsteps echoed from the corridor. Their time was up. "Download everything," Alex said urgently. "We need proof if we're going to stop this." Kazara nodded, quickly transferring the files to a data crystal. Just as she finished, the first of the guards burst into the vault. "Freeze," the guard shouted, leveling a weapon at them. Without hesitation, Kazara grabbed Alex's hand and pulled him behind the console. Energy blasts sizzled over their heads, leaving scorch marks on the walls. "Any ideas?" Alex asked, ducking as another volley of shots flew past. Sarah's eyes darted around the room, then settled on a small device on her wrist. "Hold on to me," she said. As Alex gripped her arm, Kizara tapped a sequence on the device. Suddenly, the world around them seemed to blur and shift. Alex felt a momentary sensation of vertigo, and then they were somewhere else entirely, a dimly lit maintenance corridor far from the vault. "Personal teleporter," Kizara explained, seeing Alex's bewildered expression. "Short range, and it burns out after one use, but it just saved our lives," Alex finished, grinning despite the danger. "Remind me to thank your R&D department if we survive this." They could hear the sounds of alarm and confusion echoing through the ship. It wouldn't take long for the Varaxians to track them down. "We need to get off this ship," Alex said as they ran through the winding corridors. "Is there a way to contact Earth? To warn them?" Kizara shook her head. "Any transmission we send would be intercepted. Our only hope is to reach my personal shuttle. It's small enough to slip past the fleet's defenses, fast enough to outrun pursuers." As they neared the shuttle bay, they encountered more resistance. Guards and security drones blocked their path, forcing them to take increasingly convoluted routes through the ship's labyrinthine interior. During a brief moment of respite, hidden in what appeared to be a storage room, Alex turned to Kizara. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You're risking everything, your position, your life. Why help me?" Kizara was silent for a moment, her scales shifting through a range of subtle hues. "Because you showed me something, Alexander. Through our bond, I saw the beauty of your world, the potential of your species. What my people plan to do, it's wrong. It goes against everything I believe in." She met his gaze, her multifaceted eyes reflecting a mix of emotions Alex was only beginning to understand. "And because, despite the circumstances that brought us together, I've come to care for you, more than I thought possible." Before Alex could respond, the door to their hiding place burst open. A squad of elite guards flooded in, led by a familiar face, Zixara, Kizara's former advisor. "Your Highness," Zixara said, his voice cold. "By order of the Emperor, you and the human are to be taken into custody. Surrender now, and you may yet be shown mercy." Kizara straightened, every inch the imperial princess. "I will not surrender, Zixara. What the Empire plans is an abomination. It must be stopped." Zixara's scales darkened. "Then you leave us no choice. Take them." What happened next was a blur of motion and sound. Kizara moved with inhuman speed, her royal combat training evident in every graceful, lethal movement. Alex, drawing on his military background, fought alongside her, using improvised weapons and sheer determination to hold their own against the guards. In the chaos, they managed to break free, sprinting towards the shuttle bay with their pursuers close behind. Energy blasts sizzled past them, leaving scorch marks on the walls and floor. They burst into the shuttle bay, alarms blaring all around them. Kizara's personal shuttle sat on the launch pad, a sleek vessel that looked more like a work of art than a spaceship. "Get in," Kizara shouted as she raced to the control panel. Her fingers flew over the holographic interface, initiating the launch sequence. Alex dove into the shuttle just as another volley of energy blasts erupted behind him. The door sealed shut, and he felt the vibration of the engines coming to life. "Hold on," Kizara called from the pilot's seat. "This might get rough." The shuttle lifted off, shooting towards the bay doors. For a heart-stopping moment, Alex thought it might crash into the still-closed barrier. But at the last second, the doors began to slide open, not fully, but just enough for their small vessel to slip through. They burst out into open space, the vastness of the starry void opening up before them. But their escape was far from assured. The Imperial flagship loomed behind them, and already Alex could see smaller pursuit craft being launched. "Can we outrun them?" he asked, strapping himself into the co-pilot's seat. Kazara's hands danced over the controls, her expression one of intense concentration. "We have a head start, and this shuttle is the fastest in the fleet. But we can't stay ahead of them forever. We need a plan." Alex's mind raced. They had the evidence of the Empire's plans, but no way to transmit it safely to Earth. They were being pursued by the most powerful force in this sector of the galaxy, and even if they somehow managed to reach Earth, how could they convince the world's leaders of the threat in time? As if reading his thoughts, Kazara spoke. "There's a neutral space station in a nearby system. It's a hub for interstellar commerce and diplomacy. If we can reach it, we might be able to find allies, or at least a secure way to transmit the data to your people." Alex nodded. It wasn't much of a plan, but it was the best they had. "How long until we reach it?" Kazara's scales rippled with concern. "At maximum speed, about 12 hours. The question is, can we evade our pursuers for that long?" As if in answer, the shuttle rocked violently. A warning light flashed on the control panel. "Energy blast," Kazara explained grimly. "They're within firing range." Alex looked out at the star-studded blackness of space, punctuated now by the flashes of weapons fire from their pursuers. He thought of Earth, unknowing and unprepared for the threat bearing down upon it. He thought of the billions of lives at stake, not just on his world, but throughout the galaxy if the Voraxian plan succeeded. "Then we'll just have to be faster and smarter," he said, determination hardening his voice. "You know their tactics, their technology. I've got a human perspective they won't expect. Together we might just pull this off." Kazara turned to him, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth despite the danger. "Together," she agreed. "Now let's show the Empire what happens when they underestimate us." With that, she pushed the shuttle's engines to their limits. They shot forward, weaving through weapons fire and debris, always just one step ahead of their pursuers. The next 12 hours would be a deadly game of cat and mouse, played out against the backdrop of the cosmos. As Alex braced himself for the journey ahead, he couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns his life had taken. He had come to space as a diplomat, become an unwilling bridegroom, and now found himself a fugitive alongside an alien princess he had grown to care for deeply. Whatever happened next, he knew that the fate of Earth, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The Great Escape had begun, and with it, the final chapter in Alex Chen's incredible journey among the stars. Humanity's stand. The next 12 hours were a blur of frantic maneuvers, near misses, and moments of sheer terror. Alex and Kazara worked in perfect synchronization, her piloting skills complemented by his quick thinking and unconventional strategies. They used asteroid fields for cover, skimmed dangerously close to the corona of a star to lose their pursuers in its electromagnetic interference, and at one point even used the gravity well of a gas giant to slingshot them ahead of the Voraxian ships. As they approached the neutral space station, their shuttle battered but still intact, Alex allowed himself a moment of hope. They had made it this far against impossible odds. Maybe, just maybe, they could pull this off. The space station loomed before them, a massive structure of interlocking rings and spires that sparkled in the light of the system's twin suns. Ships of various designs and origins swarmed around it like insects around a hive. "We're being hailed," Kazara announced, her scales a mix of relief and apprehension. A gruff voice crackled over the comm system. "Unidentified vessel, you're entering galactic neutral zone airspace. State your business." Alex leaned forward. "This is Ambassador Alex Chen of Earth, requesting emergency asylum. We have vital information concerning a threat to galactic security." There was a long pause. Alex and Kazara exchanged worried glances. Then, "Proceed to Docking Bay 17. Security will meet you there. Any hostile action will be met with immediate force." As they maneuvered towards the assigned docking bay, Alex spotted several heavily armed patrol ships moving to intercept the approaching Voraxian fleet. It wouldn't hold them off forever, but it might buy them the time they needed. The moment they touched down, Alex and Kazara rushed out of the shuttle, data crystal in hand. They were met by a diverse group of beings, some humanoid, others utterly alien. At their head was a tall, willowy creature with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to swirl with galaxies. "I am Zinxa, chief arbitrator of this station," the being said, its voice resonating in Alex's mind rather than his ears. "You claim to have information about a threat to galactic security. Speak quickly, for your pursuers are most insistent on your return." Alex held out the data crystal. This contains proof of a Voraxian plan to genetically assimilate multiple species, starting with Earth. They're planning an invasion that could reshape the entire galaxy. Zinx's swirling eyes fixed on the crystal, then on Kazara. "You are of the Voraxian royal line. Why do you stand with this human?" Kazara stepped forward, her head held high. "Because what my people plan is wrong. It goes against all principles of galactic cooperation and self-determination. I cannot stand by and allow it to happen." Zinxa seemed to consider this for a moment, then gestured to one of their assistants. "Analyze the data, quickly." As the assistant took the crystal, Alex felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. They had made it this far, but what now? Even if the neutral station believed them, how could they hope to stand against the might of the Voraxian Empire? Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the station. A voice echoed over the public address system. "Warning. Voraxian fleet has breached the neutral zone. All civilians proceed to emergency shelters. This is not a drill." Zinx's eyes narrowed. "It seems your pursuers have little regard for galactic law. Come, we must move to a secure location." As they hurried through the station's corridors, Alex's mind raced. "We need to contact Earth," he said. "Warn them, help them prepare." "The station has faster-than-light communication capabilities," Zinxa replied. "But even if we send a warning now, your world has no defenses against a Voraxian invasion fleet." They reached a fortified command center, screens showing the approaching Voraxian ships. Alex's heart sank as he saw the sheer number of vessels bearing down on them. Suddenly, one of Zinx's assistants burst in. "Arbitrator, the data, it's authentic, and there's more. The Voraxians' genetic assimilation technology, it's unstable. If implemented on a planetary scale, it could cause a chain reaction, potentially destroying not just the target world, but spreading throughout the galaxy." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Voraxians weren't just planning an invasion. They were risking the destruction of everything in their blind pursuit of power. Zinxa turned to Alex and Kazara, their swirling eyes intense. "We have no choice. We must make a stand here now, not just for Earth, but for all life in the galaxy." Alex nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "We need to broadcast this information to every species, every world we can reach. The Voraxians have made enemies across the galaxy. If we can unite them against this threat—" "It could work," Kazara interjected, her scales shimmering with excitement. "And I know the weaknesses in Voraxian ship design. If we can coordinate an attack—" Zinxa raised a hand, silencing them. "What you propose is unprecedented. A galactic alliance, formed in mere hours, to stand against one of the most powerful empires in existence." They paused, their swirling eyes seeming to peer into some distant future. "It is ambitious, perhaps foolhardy, and our only hope." What followed was a whirlwind of activity. Alex found himself at the heart of the most unusual diplomatic effort in history. As Kazara worked with the station's engineers to develop strategies against the Voraxian fleet, Alex spoke to representatives from dozens of species, some joining in person as their ships arrived, others via holographic projections. He drew on every ounce of his diplomatic training, every shred of charisma he possessed. He showed them the evidence, explained the threat, and appealed to their sense of self-preservation and justice. Slowly, improbably, a coalition began to form. Ships arrived from across the sector, longtime rivals now united against a common foe. Battle-scarred warships flew alongside sleek diplomatic vessels, all preparing to make a stand. As the impromptu fleet assembled, Alex took a moment to send a message to Earth. He looked into the camera, knowing his words would soon be broadcast to every screen on his home planet. "People of Earth," he began, his voice steady despite his exhaustion. "I am Ambassador Alex Chen, speaking to you from a neutral space station at the edge of our solar system. What I'm about to tell you will seem impossible, perhaps even frightening. But I need you to listen, to understand, and to prepare." He explained the situation as clearly and concisely as he could: the Varaxian threat, the planned invasion, and the alliance forming to stop it. "I know this is a lot to take in," he continued, "but humanity has faced impossible odds before and triumphed. We've overcome divisions, reached for the stars, and achieved wonders. Now we face our greatest challenge and our greatest opportunity. For the first time, we stand united not just as a planet, but as part of a galactic community." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "Prepare yourselves. Support your leaders as they implement emergency protocols. But most importantly, hold on to hope. You are not alone. We are not alone. And together we will prevail." As he ended the transmission, Alex felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned to see Kazara, her scales a soft, comforting blue. "That was well said," she murmured. "Your people will be proud." Before Alex could respond, Xenoxat approached. "It is time," they said solemnly. "The Varaxian fleet has begun its attack on the station's defenses. Our allies are in position." Alex took a deep breath, straightening his shoulders. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of Earth, of countless species across the galaxy. He thought of his home, of the billions of lives hanging in the balance. He thought of the strange journey that had brought him here, of the unlikely allies he had found. "Let's do this," he said firmly. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations across the galaxy. The hastily assembled alliance, under the strategic guidance of Kazara and the coordination of the neutral station, fought with everything they had against the Varaxian war machine. Alex found himself in the thick of it, coordinating communications between the various species, relaying tactical information, and making split-second decisions that could mean the difference between victory and annihilation. The space around the station became a chaos of energy beams, missile trails, and explosions. Ships on both sides fell, but the alliance held firm. The Varaxians, for all their technological might, found themselves outmaneuvered by the combined tactics and technologies of a dozen different species. As the tide of battle began to turn, a transmission cut through the chaos. On the main screen of the command center appeared the face of the Varaxian Emperor himself. "This is madness," he roared, his scales dark with rage. "You would unite the galaxy against us. We offer order, perfection." Alex stepped forward, Kazara at his side. "You offer enslavement and destruction," he replied calmly. "It's over, Emperor. Stand down your forces." The Emperor's eyes narrowed. "You forget your place, human. You are nothing but a primitive species, barely out of your planetary cradle." "Perhaps," Alex acknowledged. "But we're a primitive species that has united the galaxy against you. Imagine what we might accomplish as allies instead of enemies." For a moment, the Emperor seemed taken aback. Then his expression hardened. "You have made your choice," he snarled. "Now face the consequences." The screen went dark, and moments later alarms blared throughout the station. Multiple energy signatures detected, one of the controllers announced, their voice tight with fear. "They're preparing to fire their main weapon." Kazara's scales paled. "The Genesis device," she whispered. "If they activate it here." Alex's mind raced. They were so close to victory, but one desperate act by the Emperor could undo everything. Then, a crazy idea struck him. "The device," he said quickly. "It's tied into their main systems, isn't it? The same systems that control their ships, their weapons." Kazara nodded, realization dawning in her eyes. "Yes, but, Alexander, what are you thinking?" Alex turned to the assembled aliens. "We need to get a team onto the Voraxian flagship. If we can access their main computer, we might be able to turn their own weapon against them, not to destroy, but to disrupt their systems." It was a desperate plan, fraught with danger. But as Zinnuxa often said, desperate times called for desperate measures. What followed was the most daring raid in galactic history. Alex and Kazara led a small, elite team drawn from various species, each chosen for their unique skills. They slipped past the Voraxian defenses in a stolen ship, infiltrated the massive flagship, and fought their way to the heart of the vessel. In the end, it came down to Alex and Kazara working together to override the Genesis device's protocols. As Voraxian troops pounded on the sealed doors of the control room, they raced against time to rewrite the device's core programming. Almost there, Kazara muttered, her fingers flying over the alien controls. Just a few more seconds. The doors began to glow red as the Voraxians attempted to burn through. "Kazara," Alex said softly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, I'm glad we're here together." She turned to him, her multifaceted eyes shimmering with emotion. "As am I, Alexander. As am I." The doors burst open just as Kazara hit the final command. A wave of energy pulsed out from the flagship, washing over the Voraxian fleet. Ships began to drift, their weapons and engines suddenly inert. In that moment, the tide of battle shifted decisively. With their technology neutralized, the Voraxians had no choice but to surrender. In the days that followed, as representatives from across the galaxy gathered to discuss the future, Alex found himself at the center of a new era of galactic cooperation. Earth was welcomed into the galactic community, not as a conquered world, but as the planet that had united the stars. And as he stood beside Kazara, watching representatives from 100 worlds sign a new treaty of peace and cooperation, Alex Chen, diplomat, reluctant bridegroom, and accidental hero, allowed himself to smile. The road ahead would not be easy, but for the first time in galactic history, they would walk it together. The universe, it seemed, was full of possibilities, and humanity, with its newfound allies, was ready to explore them all.